Hello there from Area 51 Raceway. Welcome to the channel today. We're going to talk about tuning the C5 Revo Slot Corvette. I've purchased 4 of these cars. The 2 I purchased in the past are the CompuServe and the Daytona number 3 Corvette. I didn't get the other one because it was basically the same thing with a different number, but it was the Le Mans version. But I found that after tuning these cars and getting more, I probably should have got it anyway. They are really, really cool looking cars. The best part is that it's an American Corvette. And really want to say Revo Slot, excellent job on choosing the Corvette. And the liveries are just beautiful. And the cars, as always, are extremely well detailed. So I have a total of 20 Revo Slots. Over there in the case, I made a case dedicated to Revo Slots, and there's 4 spots left to fill there. So uh, in the future, there'll be more cars, and in the future, there'll be more cases of those cars because they really are a really pleasure to drive. They handle real well on the Area 51 wood track, and they're just fantastic cars. That's all I could say. So I will show you what I do to tune these for my track. Uh, may vary different from other tracks. People have different opinions how they tune it, but that's the hobby. Everybody gets different ideas from everyone. My videos, I always said, are basically for the entry level guys. Of course, you have the professional racers, Tom Cruises of the you know slot car world of racing that do more stuff to this, soaking the soaking the oil lights or the bearings and lighter fluid and then exfoliating it and then putting it in oil. I really have no reason to do that. This is just for me to have fun. Now, if I was to go racing, I would consider little tricks like that because that does give you an edge when you have less resistance on your car when you're racing on for, competition. But this is just for fun because that's what this channel is for. It's for fun. So I'm going to show you how I tune the Corvette and what I do, and then you can take it from there and experiment yourself. And hopefully the video will help you with what I know, and then you can take that again, like I said, and use it for yourself or see everybody else's ideas on how they tune it, and then you get your own idea and your own, how'd you say, foot in the door of what to do. So let's talk about the Revo Slot Corvette and get it tuned, and you can see it on the track after they're done. All right, we have the Revo Slot Corvette C5. This is a gorgeous livery. This is the number 2 the number 2 GM Goodwrench car, and it's a beautiful silver and black, which really is nice. And again, Revo Slot really has a great detail to their cars. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're a real pleasure to drive once you get them all set up, and they're just fun. I mean, just about any Revo Slot is fun. This one in particular has really got me because it's a Corvette, and I got a total of 4. So I have 2 already tuned. The earlier version, one, the CompuServe one, and the number 2 Daytona with the yellow and white. And I'm gonna get more, and this is why, because they're just fantastic, and they aren't that hard to tune. So what I've done is taken off the body screws, and I removed the body. Get that out of the way, and screws go right here. I just take them off completely. You can, I don't think on this car I would peel it back like you do on the Groove 2 cars where you just loosen it and move it back. I prefer to take the body off. But what we have here is the chassis of the car, and what you generally want to do is check mesh when you get these cars. And this to me is a little bit too loose. And you could check this with a piece of paper by rolling it on there. That's a trick you could do. And I'm sure people have other various tricks. I usually go by eye and by feel to see how much lash there is in this. And to me, that's just a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. But again, when you take these cars, you make a good judgment. There's a lot of tricks where people will put polish to quiet the gear down because it is metal gear, and eventually it will quiet down. But it'll still be a little noisy because it's a metal geared car. And then also the body resonates a lot of the noise because it's thin in the tray. So all this is going to make the racket because that's just the way they are. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually like the noise. So what I do with these cars is take them apart, and I have a tool where I check the pillars here, and I'll show you that. The other Corvettes have the Deepwood guide that comes with the Revo Slot package, So this is what's nice about Revo Slot. You have a standard guide that comes with the car, and then they drop in a deep wood guide if you want to go with that, and then magnets if you want to go magnets, which is no problem. Going magnets, it's to me that's fine. You have fun how you want to have fun, and then give you extra mirrors, which is cool. But as you can see, the deep wood guide is it's really nice for my track, and this is what I have on the two vets. Now I haven't used the slot invasion one because I was pretty happy with the way they ran, and I'm gonna actually not do but install a slot invasion guide on this one. One of the reasons why the slot invasion guide I do enjoy is that if you here's the deep wood guide, and you're gonna see how much side to side movement there is. So this would be generally moving around on the slot like that. And what the advantage of the slot invasion guide is that you have really minimal slop on back and forth movement. So the car is going to be, a little bit more steady, obviously, in the corners and not slapping around back and forth as much as you would with this one. It's kind of hard for me to show you because I don't have too much light here. So I'm downstairs, but that's basically the principle. And plus the design, it's not as deep, and it's a very robust guide, and it's got a nice long, curb here, and then a nice tail on it, which is really a nice looking guide, and a little bit longer than the slot the excuse me than the Revo one, which you can see. So I'm going to switch with this one, and then again after I do that I will use the ferrules. As far as braid goes, you could use copper braid from Slot Car Corner, or you could use the tin coated copper braid from Slot Car Corner. And then on some instance, like on the Toyota GT car, there are some people saying, how do you lower the front end because they sit a little high. With this car, it's not that problem. On some, they may run into that on that particular car. What you could use also is the super thin slotted braid, which really works well as well to drop the front end, to drop the front end down more. This has also the spring loaded guide, which I don't care about. I usually dump the spring. And then you have the brass nuts, which I do put Mazzetti bushings underneath there, and I'll show you how to do that. And I will true the front tires, and then I will check the rear tires and true them lightly. You have to be real careful with these tires, because if you overdo it, you're going to burn them up, and then you're not going to be a happy camper, because it's going to be like a melted goo, and then it's really, really hard to bring the tires back. So got to be careful with that. There are other companies that make various compounds for this wheel for these cars, so people who use silicone don't have to worry about truing. And then you have guys that use urethane, that they want to use urethane, which is fine. You have to true those. And then you use rubber. So it's a matter of preference on the person what they want to do, and whatever club you're in that allows what tire. So we're gonna go and take this apart. I'm going to show you what I do with it and start my tuning process for my track. Okay, so we're going to start removing taking everything apart, the chassis. So this particular car uses a 1.5 hex screw, or hex tool, and Slot Car Corner does make a kit, and, standard cross screwdriver, and like I said again, Slot Car Corner makes a little maintenance kit for these Revo Slot cars. So if you're going to be working on Revo Slot cars, get the tools for it. It's real important. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to remove the wheels and tires. I'm going to remove the front axle, and I'll start here. And you're going to have a lot of little parts, so you have to be careful to make sure you put your parts. If you have a little anything that you could set them in, you keep them from getting tossed around or on the ground and getting kicked around and falling in your carpet, whatnot, like me with hanger one upstairs. You can see the bearing came right out. So, and here's the spacer, which is a brass uh, a collar, and then we're gonna remove that, put the axle to the side, and there's our front wheels. You can see that little bearing popped out of the pillar easy. This one right here, you just give it a little push right there, and it should fall right out. Sometimes it can be a little tough. Just be careful pushing them out. You could use a flat tip screwdriver or cross strip. You just got to be real careful when you pry them out. Now I've taken them out, and now what I'm going to do is remove the guide, and I'm going to just, this is a 1.5 as well. I'm going to unscrew this, and I usually do not reuse this, so I'll use since I'm using a slot invasion one, I'm just going to use that. And then there's going to be a little spring here around the guide post. I'll take that and fling it off there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove I'm having a hard time here putting it back in. I should just leave it right there. So what I'm going to do is remove the brass nuts. Now this, you could use a cross tip screwdriver, and on the other side, sometimes they come off easy like that one did. If you're going to have problems with it coming out, then use a 5mm nut driver to hold it on this side as you unscrew it. But it seems like these are coming out easy. So far, I'm just holding it with my finger here and just putting some pressure, and it is coming out. So I'm getting lucky there. Sometimes they're really tough. If they give you a lot of resistance, do not continue turning this, because you could strip the head or gouge out the head of the screw here, and then you'll have a big problem. So see how they come out, I put pressure. If they come out like that, then you're good. Don't, how would you say, continue putting pressure. If they refuse to come out, get a nut driver and use that to help you, assist you to remove them. But generally they come out pretty easy like this. Put that there, and then your part of your chassis here is, I'm almost making a big mess here. To see, it's easily to get stuff thrown around. And there's that little screw or the little spring somewhere over there, but I don't care because I'm not using it. This is why it's important to have a little tray to put stuff in. Sometimes also, this is another good idea too, if you have, for example, that screen, and I should have done this, is you have the magnet, and this is what the magnet's good for. There you go. You don't have to worry about it, and you can put it here, and then everything will just stick to it. That you're worried about losing something, and then everything will basically slam onto the magnet that's, made out of metal, even the bushings and the axle, except for the brass. Brass won't do it, but you could do that just to keep your parts from flying all over the place like that, and just makes it easier. So we'll set it aside. So now we got this piece off right here, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to pull these out, these little ferrules, or actually pull the braids out. Now obviously remember where the red wire goes. So on this particular configuration, it's an angle winder. The red wire is on the left, and then the negatives is on the right. So not too hard to remember. And you'll know if you get it wrong, because it'll go backwards. So I'll remove these because I'm not going to use these. I'll pull the ferrules out like that. Just kind of get underneath there with your fingernail. You could use a flat tip screwdriver if they get stubborn, like this one is. I'll get a flat tip and try and go underneath here and wiggle it out. You should be able to get underneath that a little bit. Let me try my fingers again. There you go. So I was able to get out with my fingernail. So it can be a little bit tough, a little bit challenging. So now we have all that loose. I'm going to take the rear axle off, and we'll remove one of the wheels like that, and then we'll remove, there's nothing. All right, what I'm going to make sure is there's no washer here, which there wasn't. So be careful, keep that in mind. So we'll put small washers sometimes. Now there's going to be a small washer right here. So I'm going to remove the gear, and you can see it wasn't on that tight. That's why you check this stuff. And then I'm going to loosen here a little, and I'm going to just pull this out. And you can see there's a washer right here. That's what you got to be careful with. There's a tiny washer there. And I'm going to actually tighten that back up. I didn't even do so. I'm just going to snug it up right there for now. And then there goes the washer, or excuse me, the bearing. And then right here you see there's a brass bushing sleeve, so put that off to the side. And then I'm going to remove this because I want to put these on the trigger and check them. And there's the rear axle, and there you go. And now that's everything right there. and get your washer. Make sure you don't lose this. This is important, this little spacer. And then get your gear, put it right there. There you go. I got it stripped down, and I'm gonna check stuff here, like my check my pillars, and I have a tool for that, and I'll show you that in right this minute. I'm gonna get it right now that I have the tool that I'm talking about that I needed. Had to go upstairs and get it. So this one is made by Slot C5-R. This is an alignment tool for the pillars. Gotta make sure the pillars are nice and straight, and that's what you're doing. And then what you can do is loosen them up, but as you can see, that's pretty good right there. And then of course check, make sure they're tight, because you want to make sure sometimes in manufacturing people miss things, and they are tight. That was a little bit loose. There you go. Now you can get this from eBay, or excuse me, from Amazon. This is the same thing as what Slot C5-R makes, and this isn't, the same deal. So one thing about this one, these ones right here, it's just regular cut rods, so you have to chamfer these. So when you get these, chamfer them so they're not hard to go in, because they'll have corners. And as you can see, this is basically doing the same thing as that other tool does. So if you want to go with, getting one from Amazon instead of getting one from Slot C5-R, if you don't want to pay as much, you get a bunch of these in a package, give them to your buddies or not. But I do this to make sure the pillars are, are not crooked, or there's no resistance. This way everything rolls nicer. And I'll do that for the rear as well. And I forgot to pop that bushing out. That bushing, see, pop the bushing out, and everything looks good there. Nice and smooth and lined up. It's no resistance. I have found a few cars that they weren't lined up real good, so it does help to have this tool, and just some extra little tool in your, ammunition there for your firepower for tuning cars. But again, it's not a must, but I just do it because, again, I got to sand that down a little bit more, but it works fine. It doesn't do anything to the pillars. Just move it out like that. So, and that's how I check those. And obviously I don't need a chassis flattener for this. And then what I'll generally do is just, start truing the tires next, is what my next thing I'll do. And what we'll do is we will go upstairs to the truer, and you'll see how I true these, and do that. Okay, here we are with the Mid-America truer. And now you can glue these if you want to. I really don't think it's necessary, because they're super tight, these things. They don't, I don't feel that they move around a lot, but I would. And I just didn't on the other cars. I don't feel they need to be, but again, I'm not trying to, say don't. If you feel gluing them is necessary, then please do. I'm not going to tell you, don't do it, or, you must do it. It's just my preference. So what I'm going to do is turn on the truer and true the front tires. And I'm going to go real easy, obviously, because we don't want to, kill this. So I'll go as low as like 3 volts. That's what I'm at. And what I'll do is as soon as I hear a little contact or see it, I'm going to stop. And getting closer. There we go. You see, you can hear it. Again, these front tires, they do really need to be trued on these Corvettes, because they do have high and low spots. And what I'll do is, you could see how it's taking it off little at a time. It's moving it a little bit. And I'm just going slow with this. I don't want to go fast. I just want to get a smooth surface. And it's working its magic. You see there's a high and low spot on these tires. And you can see all the rubber starting to come off. You want to do it nice and slow and easy, little at a time. I'm going a little bit more. This is the way you don't melt anything, which you don't want to do. You can use water if you want to cool it down. If you feel like it's getting overheated, you can get a little drop of water and just dab it on there like that. This way, you feel comfortable with it. And I'll just go on a little bit more. And I'll just keep getting this going until I get it nice and smooth across, because that's the whole point of this, is to make sure you get it nice and smooth and you know, nice and even, and don't melt the tire. There you see we got a nice even surface all the way across it. That looks really good, and that's what you're looking for. No high or low spots, and that's great. So now this is ready to go. One thing you want to remember too is you want to cut them equally. So when you do the next tire, you want to make sure that you are at the same diameter. So what you want to make sure is you have a caliper to measure the diameter. So I'll take that off. Looks good. And then what I'll do is I'll get my caliper to make sure I'm doing equal amounts on the next tire for the front. And I have 1944. So I'll lock that down. And on my next tire here that I'm doing, I'll make sure it's the same diameter as this one, because we don't want anything off, because then the car will be, you know, tilted off to one side, higher or lower than the other one. So, and we'll do is we'll repeat the same process and do it again. All right, I have both tires trued, and I'm going to check. So this is the first one I did, so we're good there. And this is the one I just finished, and we're good there. Nice and trued all the way through. That looks really good. You're set to go for the front tires. Now on to the rear tires. So, a real quick note here on the rear tires. I honestly think they do not need to be trued, but some people do true them depending on the surface of the track. Wood to me is a little bit more forgiving because they will self true themselves as you run the car and put laps on it. Within about 50 laps, you're going to get a pattern on the tire. You can go ahead and true them, like I'm kind of showing you here a little. Uh, People that have like Scale Electric Sports Track, which has very minimal traction, they benefit a lot from truing. And then you have Carrera Track, which has more texture. And then you talk about the other tracks like Polycar, which are way more grip. Those tires are very soft. They're 30 short. They will start throwing rubber all over your track. They'll do it on my track. They'll do it on a rougher surface on the plastic tracks. So, to me, in my opinion, this step right here was really unnecessary for me, but I'm just showing you so that you could see you can true them, but you have to be very, very, very light and use water, because if you put a lot of excessive heat, it will come up and you will just be in a miserable place and actually ruin the tire. So, uh, just a note on that. Now, urethane is another option that's a lot easier because it trues a lot easier and a lot quicker than this rubber. And then there's other compounds as well. But honestly, for my track, had no need to really true rear tires. I just put them on, run them for about 50 to 100 laps, and pretty much they're pretty much done and ready to have a pattern worn on the tire. But this is just my opinion on that. You can true them if you want. Again, it's just different ways of doing things. I'm just telling you my way. So I hope that little note there kind of helped you out. All right, now I got my wheels trued, or my tires trued and everything. I'm going to put the front axle on the front part of the chassis. So these bearings go in obviously from this side, the outside, and you want to put those on. Now there's some guys that do, and this is for people who do a lot of racing. I don't do this. You put these in naphtha, and then you get all the oils out, and then you re-soak them in oil. Yeah, you could do that if you want. There's guys that have tricks that do that. I preferably just put them in there and oil them up, because it's just for my home track. I'm not like, going out and being Tom Cruise on the slot car track. I'm just here to just have fun, just playing with my cars on my own. And what I'll do is put the wheel on and tighten it up, put the sleeve on, or collar, whatever you want to call it. Slide that in there, and then get your other collar. Don't forget that, because if you don't put that on, you're going to push this through and you'll push the insert out. And then what we'll do is we'll give this a little snug. And what I'll do is I get some oil and lube that up from both sides. I'll put a drop here, a drop here, a drop here, and a drop here. And then I will check them out. spin nice and free. I'll loosen them up just a little bit to give it a little bit of play, not a lot, just so they spin nice and free. There's a little movement there, very, very little. There you go. And you can give it a little bit more movement if you want. Let's give it a teeny bit more. There you go. And that's nice and free, nice and aligned. And there's the front part of the car. And those tires are true, so this thing should roll real nice down the track once we get the other parts done. You can set that off to the side, and what we'll do is we'll work on installing the guide and everything, and what I do with it. All right, let's discuss braid. So the braid that comes with the Revo Slot car is 0.45 millimeters. So that's what I'm getting here, 0.45, 0.46. Okay, and then you have this is the slot car corner copper braid, which is 0.34. I'm getting 0.34, 0.25, so that's relatively thinner. And then you have also the tin copper braid from Slot Car Corner, which I just needed to get a new package because this is really good braid as well. This right here is 0.31, so pretty thin. And then you have the slotted, which is 0.23. So you got a lot of choices here for braid for this car. So obviously the Revo Slot one comes pretty thick, and you have the copper, and you have the tin copper, and then you have the slotted stuff. So depending on the guide you're going to use, and if you want to use ferrules, obviously there's a tight fit in there. This fits probably the best, but again, it's very narrow. So if you don't want to use that, you could spread it out. It will work. I've used this on poly cars because polycar comes with real thick braid. If you need to lower the front end on the car more, as per se, like on some of the Revo slots, then that would be your best bet to lower the front axle, since the front axle isn't adjustable. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with this stuff right here, which is the stuff I've used before, which is the tin copper. And excellent braid from Slot Car Corner. What I'm going to do is I cut it a little bit proud, or a little bit long, so I could always chop it off if I need to. And then I'll get another piece to match the same length as the last one I cut, as close as I could get. So I make them a little long, not a big deal. Get some scissors, chop it off. Here's your 2 pieces of braid. Now, excuse me a minute, put my stuff away there. Now, here's the thing with this. You could use these ferrules, which is fine. I have nothing against them. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt. There's a way to make these to fit in here a little easier, and that is by getting a pair of pliers and crushing them, which you can do to narrow them out and stick them in there and put your braid in. Now, there's one thing I do with the cars that I have is I will not use these ferrules, and what you could do is you could tin these with some solder, and then when they're tin, you bring these and then you crush them, and you get a nice flat surface, and they fit nicely behind the braid. And what you do is you make a small hole here, and then you get a M2 thread chaser or thread maker tap, excuse me, God, losing my mind. And you just put a little, just start it in just a little bit and pull it out, and then you can use M2 screws here to secure them in there. That's just one way you could do it, or you could use the Dickwood guide and then put the ferrules in, which these could be a real pain in the butt, which I've done them on the other cars, and they take a little bit more time. I'm not too crazy about the ferrules, but I mean, it's just a matter of preference what you want to do. So it's totally up to you how you want to go about it. I've done a video on this before, partial on doing this, but I can show you what I do. So what I will do is I will get my this is a 1.1 millimeter drill bit, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of get my hand, my pin vise, and I just kind of get it right here, and then just start digging into it here. Just hold it steady, and then I just make a hole here. That doesn't mean you have to do it this way. This is just my way. You don't have to do this one bit, because some people may go, well, why would you do that? That's going to crush the wire and blah, blah, blah. It won't. Once you tin it, it'll be fine. I'll go to the other side, and then I'll just do that, put a hole. And it doesn't look pretty, but it's functional. And then I'll partially start this like that, and then come out, thread the hole with my tap, and come out. See all the stuff there, and then I'll clean that out by just getting a little toothpick, and then just getting rid of the excess garbage from the flashing from all the plastic you were cutting out, and clean it up. Toothpick will do. You can see pieces coming out there, and you're just gonna. This is a little Schwab I had lying around, so I'm just doing that, and just clean it up, clean the holes up. Then what you have is you have 2 points, excuse me, to put the grub screws through, like that. And they're not exactly straight, but they'll work. This is just doing this as an example. And then you get 2 grub screws, which I thought I had down here, and I forgot them. And you just put them in there, and you press them against it, and this secures the wire. That's one way of doing it. And then also you could use your ferrules if you want to keep your ferrules. And for example, I'll just do it here. Say you have the wire in here, and you could crush them with this to narrow them down. And it doesn't hurt anything if you want to stay with ferrules. I hope I don't drop it on the floor. I just want to do with the wire on yet. And then you just smash them down a little like that. And then you could use these. This way the wire's in there, and you see how narrow this is. Then you put your braid in there, and then use your set screw, and it just pushes against it. And it also makes it easier to slip in there, as you can see, somewhat. And then you could use the set screw, and use the set screw to push them into there. So that's the method of doing that. I'm going to use my soldering technique and what I do, and I'll go with that route. All right, I've soldered these and stripped them and soldered them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to smash them with pliers, just flatten them. What I'm doing, just like that, this flat area, and this is going to go in the guide. I got my braid there, and get the red wire and tuck it behind the braid, just like that. I'm going to get my set screw, and I'm going to put it in like that, and there you go. Not going anywhere. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Let me get my set screw set up, like that, and tuck it back there. Oops, let me get here. Just like that. Oh, I almost dropped my set screw. Get my set screw back there. Just keep going till you feel. Let's see, that wire will pull back. There you go, and it's in. So now we're all tucked in there, ready to go. That's it, and that's it. That's how I do that, and it won't go anywhere. You make sure you don't have it sticking out at the bottom, obviously, which it's not. There's nothing sticking out. If you make it too long and sticking out, it's going to raise your braid, and you're going to have a problem with the handling. The car will pop off the guide real easy, or off the slot real easy. That's how I do that, and that's one method, and then you could use the ferrules and crush them as well. And this is gonna not pull off easy or come off during an impact or something like that. So, but there's that process right there. Now I'm gonna put the rest of the chassis together, and we'll talk about the brass nuts there. All right, let's talk about these brass nuts, which are the floating nuts. Now, if you go to the catalog or the parts list, you see they have the brass screws for floating chassis, right? And back here, there's a list, and there's different brass nut sizes. So the one that the car comes with, I believe, is 2mm, which is the standard one, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have no float or zero floating, which would be 1.0. And then you have more float, 2.5, and then 3.0 for the most float you could get out of the chassis. Now I have those. I haven't used them yet because I basically want to stick with what I have because it works. I could go with 2 and make it float more, and more room for the bushing, for the the Mazzetti bushing, which I do put right here is where I put them. I put them underneath there, so when the chassis is on top of it, it's just got some nice cushion there, and kind of slow down, quiet it down, at least the chassis making noise, but always have the body making noise too. And I just seem to, this size right here seems to work well, the 2.0. So what I'll usually do is I'll put the bushings in those spots there. You don't have to glue them. They could just, could be a little tricky. And I just put them there, and then I get the chassis, and I just set them on top of there. And again, if they move around, it's not the end of the world. You'll have to do one at a time. You could always reposition it with the hex tool, as per se. Just move them around, and it could get a little bit, somewhat frustrating, but I wouldn't get too frustrated. I got that front one on. It was a little tough, but I was able to get it in. And I got this one here. So this will happen too. It'll get caught in the hole, so you want to make sure you're not pinching it. And there you go, like that. You get your brass nut. Again, this is like a little ballet sometimes, and just takes a little time. And you can see I got it right there. And then I'm gonna thread it in from behind. There you go. There you go, like that. I'll loosen it up a little. And it's just, that one's a little tough because it's right next to the motor. But once you start doing a bunch of these, it starts becoming easier. See, I sandwiched it and did that. And you could put the nut on top of there. I'm doing this down here, and there's not much light in this room. And see, it just popped out. Again, this could be challenging. I'm not saying it's easy. You don't have to do this. You don't have to. You feel it's unnecessary. I just, like I said, this is the way I do it. There you go. Get it in there like that. Okay, now they're all in. Usually what I'll do is I'll tighten these down to where they're just snug. Like that. And then I go, with this spot, I go a full turn on each one of these. Full turn, like that. I'm using that cross mark on this to say a full turn right there. This one, let me move this right there. I can see my mark right there. One turn. Okay, so we got not as much float as I like. So I'll go half. And again, this actually a quarter, quarter there, quarter there. Now I got the float I want. Now this is important. Let me put the screw on this, which I should have done already. And I have that right here to secure it. So let's put the guide screw in. And we'll secure this so it's not flopping around. A little loose there. Check that. Oh, one thing I didn't do was, but we don't want to do that because that'll foul the axle. So that's not a big deal. If you find that that happened to you, you just take that out. Just there you go. Go from underneath. That's what's nice. And again, things pop off. No big deal. Just put them back on, and you can move the axle. This way you don't have to mess with it anymore by taking the wires off. Sometimes there, it's over it now. Here we go. Perfect. Exactly what I want. So now we get that secure there. So this is important. What I usually do is use a dab of super glue or Loctite and put them in there in the hole. Let it soak the hole and let it sit. If you don't do that, then these are going to come off on the first or second lap and they're going to be flying off. Now I could use these. This is what I was talking about, using the 2.5 to give me more of a gap so I could tighten them all the way, and that should give me enough. The Mazzetti bushing that I'm using is a 0.5. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that. So it's 0.5. So you figure this right here is what, 2.0. So if you were to use the 2.5, that'd be fine. But I do it this way because these are kind of hard to get, because I've looked at Pendle Slot, they're out of stock. I think Slot Car 132 may have them. I have one missing here because I lost one from another car, so I'm the regular set, or the 2.0, the ones that the car comes with. So I'm missing one, and it's just they're kind of hard to get. So I do it this way because there's a lot of cars. I can't be buying, multiple ones just for this. So what I do is I get a dab of super glue, and I just put it in the hole like that, just like that. Get another glob of it here. Just fill it in, and that's going to hold that screw in there, and you just let this dry. This is pretty fast setting CA glue, and it's thin CA glue. It's not thick, so this way you get into the threads there and soak them in there. And then get the last one here. A little bit more. This is I'm in a very spot here in downstairs in Area 51 where it's not really a place to be doing this. I'm just trying to do down here in camera, and I should have better light, and I don't. At least not in this area. So forgive me if it doesn't look like really bright down here. So now we got that done. We'll let that sit, and we'll assemble our rear axle and set our gear mesh. And then right here you could put a piece of tape, either Gorilla Tape or something, to when you're done with putting your weight on. I'm going to be putting weight on it and checking all that out. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll put our rear axle on. The glue is dried up here and all set to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start assembling my rear axle here, and I'm going to put my little washer, or excuse me, my bearings in here, and I'm going to get this little guy here. I'll put the axle in, and I'm going to get this little guy here, the little spacer, and put him in there, and then we're going to get this and put this in there. So you need that spacer. That's important to fit that in there. And then we're going to get the wheel, put it there, and we're going to tighten it up with the correct tool. That's not the correct tool. And we'll give it tightening there, like that. Then we'll get our spacer, which goes on the opposite side of the gear, and put the other side on. Oop, got a little glue on me. Oh, thought that was dry, but it wasn't. That's okay. I'm going to get that, tighten it up, and we're going to tighten, obviously, this baby up. Now what we could do is this, excuse me, let me remove this wheel because we're going to set our gear mesh. Apologize. So I'm going to tighten that up. And then what we want to do is look on the side of this. And this is important. And you want to set your gear mesh. That's not too bad. That looks pretty good. The one thing I didn't do was check if this screw was tight on the bulkhead. So let me move this out of the way again. Right here, the spacer still, see, that was loose. Tighten it up. Because you got to check all this. So this was loose, this motor onto the bulkhead. The washer's still on there, or spacer, so I'll put this back on. Oops. A little bit more. Oh, looks like I've lost everything. All right, so no biggie. So it came out. No biggie, it came out. A little bit of a hiccup here. All right, get our bearing back on. Put our spacer. We'll put this back on like that. There we go. Not a big deal. It has stuff happens. All right. So now I checked that this was tight, and I should have done that. All right. So what I want to do is adjust this a little bit more. I don't like how that is. I may adjust it a little bit. To me, I go by a feel thing. Now these things are really could be real delicate. So you got to make sure you don't over tighten them because they could easily, how would you say, strip the head of it. Go with that, and then I'll check. Again, you could use a piece of paper. See, that's how you're checking your, your gear lash. You can see the pattern it lays, but I'm doing this by like feel. And there's very little movement there. So I think that's a little bit too tight. I don't really feel that much movement. So I'll back it off a little. That. Do this again. Again, you got to really just take your time doing this part. This is the part that takes a little time to do. Right there. Tight. Tight. What I'm doing, that's actually nice. I moved the motor and kind of held it, that don't loosen the screws completely, and I'm able enough to move the motor. Now I got the lash that I want right there. And that's, see right there. That's good lash right there, that's fine. It won't be too loose or, too tight. You just got to get it just right. And then I'm checking these. And again, these heads right here, you could strip them easily, so be careful. And then I check to see if the motor's secured. So that's basically it. We got that all done. I'm going to put my wheel back on as I throw my tool across the desk. Like that. And there we go. You see the movement there? Very little. That's good. I think we'll be fine there. And there we have it. It's pretty much ready to rock and roll here, baby. Not too bad. Put these out a little too like that so they don't need to be sticking out a little like that. And then, yep, cool. I think I'm pretty happy there. And then what I do is I get some weight. With the other cars, I'm going to duplicate the same thing I've done with the other two because this is how much weight I put on it. It works for me. I'm not saying it'll work for you if you do it this way. So you have to tune it to your track and figure out what's the best, setting, or how would you say, balance for your track. So I'm gonna cut that piece off that had the tape. What I do is I think I put 3 strips is what I've done. I usually put it right in between here. And again, this is just for my track. You may be different for your track, so you have to really experiment. I'll put right there. That should be the right amount. If not, I'll chop it down a little, which is no big deal. Like that. So right there. That's where I place the weight. And I'm going to put 3 strips because that's what I did with the other cars, the other Corvettes, and they handle real well on the track. They do real good. And I'll put 1. And this is why I like this tape. To me, this tape works really well. I like it a lot. And put this again. There we go. And yep, you peel this stuff off. It's really just thin on there, like that. Go back here, place it back there like that. And you can use like that. I'll get another piece and I'll layer it on top of each other. And I'll grab another 3rd piece. Peeling this backing off is a pain in the butt. There you go. Get this piece of plastic. There you go. I got weight in the back there. I'm going to put weight right there. So I usually put it on the nose here. I got 1. There you go. Here's my weight placement. If you want, you can put it here. It's up to you. If you feel you need more there, it just depends on your track. And wires look pretty good. I probably don't need to secure too much because I did cut some off here, so I made it shorter. But that should be good right there. Guide is snug. It's not super loose or super tight. And there you have it. Now what we'll do is we'll put the body on and get our body float. And that's the last part. And right, so what I'll do is I'll go a full turn. 1 turn there, 1 full turn there, 1 full turn there, 1 full turn there. Well, pretty much should have my body. Pretty good. There we go. I'm happy there. And then what you could do also, if you want to use some tire tweak, you could treat the tires, let them sit for a few hours or overnight, and then clean them with naphtha. But that's pretty much all set to go. And we'll throw it on the track, my big mess here, and see how it performs. And we'll check it out. Let's go to the track. All right, here we are at the track. We have the Corvette ready to go. And my brake is at 7. And my sensitivity is at 4. That's my preference, at least for what I'm using right now for these cars. So let's give it a whirl. A little jackknifing there. Oh, more jackknifing. Yeah, a little bit more there. So these tires, again, they're really super sticky. So they're gripping good. And again, when you work this car in more, they will get a little bit better. But one thing about the Revo Slot tires, I do want to get something different. And I have ordered some G25 tires to see what would be the difference. So I'll be experimenting with that. And urethane as well. Urethane will give you more of the sliding. But as this car starts working in, the tires get warmer. It starts getting a little bit better. But oh, wrapping there and almost picking off. You see the gear mesh sounds good. I'm pushing the car hard, so if something goes wrong, it will do it. So gear goes loose or a wire comes off. So far so good. Oh, more jackknifing. Now I haven't treated these tires yet, which I should. I usually treat them with the tire tweak and then let them sit overnight and then clean them with naphtha. Oh, more jackknifing. I'm pushing it hard, so. There you go. There is the Corvette there. That was not too bad. So this has a slot invasion guide. You can see the amount of float I have on there. And of course, it's important you put super glue on those brass nuts. And if I didn't have done that, you definitely, one of those nuts would have been flying off and the car you would see it act weird and have a problem. But it's important to do that. Or you could wait and order the 2.5 millimeter taller bushing, or go even taller than that, or don't use a Mazzetti bushing and just go all the way down. I like using the Mazzetti washer. Sorry, I keep saying bushing. I like those washers a lot. I've used them on all my Revo cars. It's just my preference. You don't have to do that. One thing that is important is to true the front tires. That's real critical to do that, because these things will be lumpy and the car will bounce around. The rears go real light, but this particular rubber it's okay. I don't really like it that much, but again, once you work it in, they're okay. But I want to try different types of rubber because my track seems to react differently with these and other tires. So you just experiment all the way through. But that's it. That is the tuning on this car. I hope you enjoyed the video. I mean, take it for what it is. This video is for beginner guys. I know there's a lot of pro guys that could do a lot more with these cars, that do racing often. I'm not that type of person. I'm here to just show beginners you could enjoy a slot car on your track. And then, of course, if you decide to go racing, then you learn from others of all the other tricks that you could do with this car. So that's it from Area 51 Raceway. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, take care and have fun racing.